So with that, I am so delighted you are here. I cannot believe we were sitting here 2 years after we started this program when there's Michael and Delora and I trying to figure out, oh, how do we do this? And they're, and God bless them because it was, I think I was doing some of the teaching like at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, and we're all sort of doing this, trying to get through it. Because but anyway, so here we are, 2 years later. You all are doing incredible things in the world already. You are lifting up people's options and possibilities. And without you making this impact, there's no way that we're going to be able to shift from where we are currently, from negativity, fear, all of the bad things that go along with being a doctor, and I'm guilty of that, into one of possibility and options. And no matter how bad it looks, there's always something else we can offer. And what you all have taught me over the course of these 2 years, and what I hope I've been able to teach you, is just, I am beyond grateful. And I'm very grateful to this woman sitting behind us because she has put up with all the 2 years of ups and downs and oh my God. Very without you. Um, she's the one that gets me grounded when it gets weird, like when we're like, oh, I guess we'll be doing an event by ourselves. She's like, just breathe. And so she is the one that keeps me on the ground, keeps me from going too far down in the hole when it's hard. So thank you again, my love. So having said that, we've been talking about a lot of cool stuff. I'm sorry Leah's not able to be here with us today. We've been talking about CellCore products. And what I wanted to do today is teach you a little bit more about them and what the heck is all this stuff? We have been seeing just some amazing. Natalie can attest to that. Michael can attest to that. So let's dig into it. So CellCore is, let's see, maybe it works. Maybe it don't work.
You just got to choose the right button.
I did. So at the core of CellCore is carbon-based technology, which sounds really fancy, right? What they're doing is taking fulvic acid and humic acid. And you're hearing this a lot. Fulvic acid, humic acid, binders, detox, blah, blah, blah. So just for your patient, fulvic acids are actually derived from humic acid. So we got long chain carbons in humic acid. Fulvic acids are shorter chain carbons. So I won't scare the hell out of you with diagrams of chemical structures, but the difference is important in terms of how these function and what we ask them to do. So fulvic acids are able to take things into the cell as well as pull things out of it. And humic acid just kind of hangs out and is the big heavy in terms of grabbing stuff. So we know that they're helping encourage optimal nutrient intake. So not only the dog is eating the right stuff, the cat is eating the right stuff, the person is eating the right stuff, it's actually going where it's needed into the cell to help repair things. It will chelate some heavy metals, but not all. So that's where we may need, if we know that we're dealing with heavy metal exposure, we may need another chelator like phenolphthaleate. It helps to break down certain pesticides, plastics, chemicals. They are free radical scavengers. So that helps to combat oxidative stress. And then the other thing is it helps to promote healthy bacteria, the probiotic organisms, and to modulate the dysbiotic organisms. And y'all, we will get you copies of these PDFs. I'm sorry, we're always running a little slow, but we'll get you there, get you covered. And then it breaks down biofilm. Now that's something that people talked about a lot about 10 years ago, but we don't really talk about it much anymore, but it is an interesting concept. So in the gut is a normal mucus layer. Biofilm is when dysbiotic organisms chelate metals, minerals, all the stuff, and roll it up into a big fat nasty mucus ball where they're protected from the immune system function. And so if we can begin to break down biofilm, then we can start to really shift how the gut is able to respond. As this biofilm breaks down, it exposes these microorganisms to all the other beautiful things we have available to us, herbs, you know, even some of the chemical pharmaceuticals, they don't work well if everything is still stuck in biofilm. So this makes everything else we do work better. As biofilm continues to break down, it also releases heavy metals and it allows more of the minerals to become available because they're no longer bound up in this good. So really, really good stuff. So fulvic acid, as I said earlier, is the short chain molecule. And this is important because it's able to get through more of the body's defense systems, like the blood-brain barrier, the blood-bile barrier, which is another concept we're starting to learn more about, and take stuff into the cell as far as nutrients, drop off their load, and then the cell is able to signal that, hey, this stuff over here, I need to get rid of. And so then the fulvic acid gets directed to a particular part of the cell and picks up the garbage and then is able to take it out. It does this by binding in some cases. So it can bind heavy metals. They can pop off. So that's part of why we may need something else to help do the whole job. And again, clinopilite may be the best option out there. The other thing it's really good at doing is folding in the free radicals. So if you think of carbon structures, many of them are circular, like this. So you'll have a ring of carbons or a molecule that's got sort of arms around it. It can end up folding in around toxin material and sucking that out, taking it out of the cell and getting it out of the body. And the other thing is that it then provides a source of trace minerals, amino acids, electrolytes, and enzymes because of its nature. So this is all decomposed vegetable, mineral, and animal material that's been hanging out for a long time. And this stuff is water soluble. So that's why it's able to get in the cell, do its thing, get back out. Now, humic acid is the long chain, and has a lot of interior space in the molecule. So like when we talked about C60, the whole idea is that it creates a trap to enclose these toxic materials. And it attracts toxins, some of it through electrostatic charge. So if it's an opposite charged molecule, it will stick like glue, carry it out. And it will, again, pull things into the interior and trap them, and exits as waste material, taking the garbage with it. So this stays more in the gut. So this is like your gut cleanup pad. And basically, all of the stuff that we worry about, all of that huge depressing module on environmental toxins, this guy is what's pulling it out of your GI tract. Now, so what does that mean? These molecules are doing three main jobs. They're binding, they're driving stuff into the cell. That's fulvic acid's chief job, is to pull the good stuff in. And then they act as protectors of the cell because they're soaking up free radicals, all of the things that can destroy the cell structure, as well as screw up the way the DNA is encoding. So all of the things that can create epigenetic changes, methylation, all of those damages. And y'all are going to start reading more and more and more about this. This has started to become mainstream literature because our understanding of what we're doing to ourselves has changed in terms of plastics and all the other scary stuff. So I have to say, I read a study, I don't know, a week ago. The study was looking at 164 human cadavers. They looked at all of the tissues for plastics, knowing they were going to find them there. So this study was to determine the load of each tissue. The brain preferentially accumulates plastics. It had 10 to 20 times the amount of plastic of any other organ in the body. And the fascinating thing is that, so these are all dead people, right? the people that died of some neurodegenerative disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all of that yucky stuff, they're on the 20x. So this is clearly associated with neurotoxicity along with all the other tissues. So, and I have to really go back and update my slides because 10 years ago, we were just worried about it being in the ocean and in fish. It is everywhere. It is in us. It is in our every tissue, in their every tissue, in the cat's every tissue. So this really is why we're talking about these products, because we now have to do a daily detox forever and ever. Amen. Until the world changes and decides that maybe we should not be producing this stuff and having all of this disposable material. And that's going to be a while because there's not money in it yet, right? So the other cool thing is that within 8 weeks, there will be a company called PetAmp that will have carboxy, BCATP, and advanced TUDCA encapsulated in sizes that are appropriate for each of the weight ranges we're going to talk about. So basically every 25 pounds. And the reason that's important is that some dogs are going to plow through whatever you put in their food bowl. Other dogs like Kyle are like, yeah. So we got them covered both ways. Short and long chain carbons. So fulvic and humic acid. The goal is to reinforce the balanced microbiome. It has covalent bonds, meaning that there is more bioavailable energy versus a spent carbon like activated charcoal. And activated charcoal can be a real pal when you need it, but this has a lot more power to suck up all the evil spirits. It assists in the repair process and is able to help improve cellular energy. The more garbage you get out of your system, the more energy is spent on repairing the cell, on producing ATP, the energy currency of the cell, and again, supporting detox via binding. Advanced TUDCA. I had to break the word apart because it's like, all in one word and it's too much. So how many of y'all know what ursodiol is? All right. Ursodiol is smart enough. Ooh, yeah. So it's too dark, too light in here. Ursodiol is ursodeoxycholic acid. Okay. Toro is just a different chemical structure. So basically, we now have an over-the-counter, well, not quite, because y'all are entitled to piggyback off of my practitioner account. We now have available something that is incredibly powerful to help clean the bile, produce better bile, and actually improve biliary function. So remember earlier I said blood-brain barrier, and then I said blood-bile barrier? What happens is there's so much inflammation in the biliary tract that it shuts down. And so if your bile production is all gooed up and it's sitting in your biliary system with all of those toxins that you can't get rid of, that's a huge problem. If we can open that back up and get the bile flowing smoothly again, then we start to be able to have this animal feel better and this person feel better. I gotta tell you, the first time I took this, I was down for about 12 hours because I couldn't handle the amount of garbage that was coming out. So these are really strong products. You do need to be cognizant of that. I'll talk about that in a moment too. So we've also got bioactive carbon, N-acetylcysteine, the precursor to glutathione, one of our favorite friends. Helps reduce oxidative stress. It does have melatonin, and so it's like, well, why did you guys put that in there? Because it happens to be a driver into the cell, so it pulls the molecule in. Interestingly, melatonin is a big component of cellular membrane. So if we've had 6 cellular membranes, if we can start to use something, the cell's like, holy smokes, I really needed this. Thank you so much. It pulls all the good stuff in with it. And BCATP, we don't talk about this one, or I haven't been speaking about this enough. So if one of the other issues, we have 6 cells that can't get rid of toxic materials. ATP, as I said, is the currency of energy within the cell. if we can provide materials that helps to make that production of ATP more efficient, then we can really start to change how the cells feel. This stuff is astonishing in terms of what it can do for older dogs, for older people. I got to tell you, one of the things I battle with over the years from mold exposures, the long ugly list of letters I've dealt with, this was a big game changer in terms of having a more consistent energy level. And that is just critical, especially as I get older with the amount of travel we do. This year has been a big travel year. This saved my life. So again, helps to feed the microbiome. And again, we're optimizing the ATP cycle to improve cellular energy production. And again, bioactive carbon is the main thing. So the one thing don't love so much is that so much of these formulas are proprietary, but they work. And so here we are because they do work. So when do we use these? And one thing that was not included in the slides was the VCAPP. This is something you might consider, like if you've got a really delicate, sick animal, this is something you may consider starting with. Just this, because the carboxy can be very intense. If that animal is up to here with toxins, we start trying to detox, we can actually make them sick and get crashy. So this may be the place to start in terms of let's start helping the cell work more efficiently. And KL support is another one that we're talking more about. It is essentially an Ayurvedic formula. The idea is that it will facilitate drainage from the kidneys, K, and liver, L, and the bile ducts. So it's a marriage between Ayurveda and components that we know support liver function. So NAC, locus stemma, marshmallow root, beetroot, bromelain root, I truly was not familiar with, but it's one of its main functions is that it has antiviral properties as well as being very cooling. So if you think about liver G stagnation, those dogs are hot, they got hot, angry livers. This starts to cool them down, and then it's also useful for helping to move gallstones from the liver, from the biliary system out of the body. And parasites. So the way that CellCore has approached this is with two chief products. There's actually 4 altogether. Para 1 is only Mimosa pudica seed. This creates this big mucinous layer, and it does a couple of things. One is it's like grabbing all of the evil spirits and sucking them down out with the stool. It also helps to create this nice gelatinous film that can supplant some of the normal mucus structure in the gut. And you do need to separate these from other supplements because it will take whatever you took with it out. So we want to make sure if we're using other supplements that they do what they're supposed to do. Para 2 is supporting immunity in the gut microbiome. You will notice here that I think it says it clears parasites down here. You will never see that on the label, just like HWF will never say that it's to prevent and treat heartworm. So again, more Ayurvedics, it supports the 3 doshas, so Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And the really cool thing is we're going to get some education on Ayurvedic medicine for veterinary side, so that's coming. But again, the goal is to use herbal support to help clear parasites. So one of the concepts these folks work on is that parasites, they're adhere toxins in their cutin, in the outside covering, and that helps you. But when the parasites get so big that they are the focus of your immune system, that is not good, because then the rest of the body can go do strange things it shouldn't do, like have an autoimmune disease, bullous pemphigus, something really dreadful. So it does help to reel back in those dysbiotic organisms. It has efficacy against H. pylori in humans. And again, more bioactive carbon. to protect it from the stomach acid so that the herbs actually get delivered down further into the GI tract where they can do their work. So let's see. Apparently healthy pets. And Natalie, this one's for you. And Natalie gets to have her story told big and loud to the pet parents this afternoon. So that'll be fun. But I think this was a big game changer for Jagger. I mean, it was like, holy crap, he's acting like he's 4 again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's your lineup basically. And again, start everything super, super slow. So if you've got a super sick pet, like I said, maybe you're going to start with BCATP and then maybe add in KL support. And you want to start really, really low and work your way up. It's right. We all want it to go right now and get it all done. This is a situation where you've got to start slow and work your way up. And then you add these things one at a time. So if you've got really a very healthy pet and your goal is the daily detox, you may start with carboxy, with megaspore, add in kale support and tutka. Maybe you're going to run this for a month and just kind of clean up what's there and then alter these, switch products in and out. I think in the background, you're going to want to have carboxy there on a daily basis. And y'all, this is where if you get the opportunity to learn how to do the sway test or really practice that, or go learn to do muscle testing or do dowsing like Deb does, this is going to help you know, does Hio need carboxy today? No, she didn't. And she didn't get any today. So this is the thing. It's going to help you know what to do. And once you get calibrated and really confident in those abilities, your abilities to support your own pets and other people's pets are going to be super helpful. So again, we'll get you these PDFs so you'll have all these doses handy. But this is kind of your basic lineup. And I think rotating is great, like Megaspore for a healthy pet. Do we want to run probiotics every day for the rest of the dog's life? No. Maybe we're going to do that every 10 days. And maybe we're going to alter it with other probiotic things, use food-based, all of that good stuff. So now, gut issues. And so when you see gut issues, you could say skin issues, you could say kidney issues, you could say cancer, and kind of everything in between. It gets boring because it's kind of all the same stuff, right? So where you want to start is with Megaspore Biotic, probably pinch, layer that in, layer in carboxy, actually probably layer in CP next. So enzymatic digestion, choose your favorite enzymatic product for supporting digestion. And then carboxy, you layer that in once things are going a little bit better and the pet's able to handle it. And truly, you were starting with a pinch for these guys because I'm here to tell you that detoxing too fast is very unpleasant. And then we're going to add in kale support, tutka, and all the other things that you're already using. Okay, so this is the goal. It's like, let's pick 2 or 3 and see how we're doing. What else do we? And then layer in things, the CBD products, Heartburn RX, different, like Chelsea's got some amazing stuff with solutions for food that you could layer in to help support good gut function. So it's just, let's get the basics in there and start to get this pet feeling better to where they can both utilize whatever else you put in and tolerate it really well. Skin issues, same set of concepts. We're starting low, working our way in. So I won't belabor this one too much. But again, what else works well? What else have you seen work well in your pets? If we've got itchy dogs, that's where quercetin and nettles is going to provide some symptomatic relief as well as CBD products. And a little bit more about the paras. They can make this super, and so there's a little dose in here. So the idea is that intestinal parasites get more active with the lunar cycle. So they are big on doing a full moon challenge. This is once you've got this animal stable and really good, and you're ready to really do a big push to dump parasites. So, and again, if one of the concepts, like we talked about Joe Tippin's protocol for cancer with fenbendazole, I think what he did was actually just deworm himself gently over months. And if you don't know that story, you go to My Cancer Story Rocks. This guy had stage 4 lung cancer. He'd gone through all of the conventional treatments, and his doctor said, "Sorry, Joe, I don't have anything else." And he was from the Ohio State University on the alumni board. A veterinarian said, "Look at fenbendazole," and he did. And literally within 6 months, he went from stage 4 lung cancer to no visible tumors, which is astonishing.
Hi, Dan. Great to see you.
Great to see you, and
Great.
welcome everyone.
Great. So, Dan, mental enrichment has many dimensions. How do you define mental enrichment, and why is it such a hot topic in the pet care industry today?
Yeah, great question, Lisa. Mental enrichment refers to activities and experiences that stimulate a dog's mind and challenge their cognitive abilities. We've always thought that we only needed to fulfill our pets with their physical health concerns or nutrition, which are mostly foundational. Mental enrichment is now recognized kind of as the third dimension and really kind of highlights overall pet wellness. It's much more than just toys, though, too. People just think that, okay, I could just fill a Kong with peanut butter, set it down, let my dog lick it. That's mental enrichment. Yes and no. You can debate that. But overall, research has shown that mentally stimulated dogs are happier, less stressed, better behaved, and even they live longer, which is why we're all here. We want to make our dogs live longer. It's better for us. It's better for them, of course. There are really exciting innovations and tools now in our industry and around mental enrichment, and we're here to tap into some of those today.
Great. Thank you, Dan. So, how do we know what types of mental enrichment are best for our dogs, and how, from your experience, do their needs change over time as they age or have different events in their life?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I was a hotshot trainer way back in the day, before I had all this gray hair on my beard, and I had actually some hair up top here, I used to play this game of it was a touch desensitivity game with puppies. And the reason that I played this game was it's a really important game for their mental development, because dogs are often touched throughout their lives. They're touched at the vet, they're touched by groomers, of course, they're touched by family members, petting, and you don't want them to be reactive towards touch in any way, shape, or form. And what I found over doing this with thousands of puppies over many, many years is if you make it a game and you make it about play, they're much more likely to cooperate with you, right? Where puppies naturally tend to bite, right? It's instinctual to do that. And of course, we want to get rid of some of the mouthiness because we don't want that to follow through with them as they grow older, because dogs putting their mouths on people when they're older is a much different thing than when they're a puppy. Overall, I would say that, as a young dog, puppies need more physical play, more problem-solving type activities, while older dogs, after they've been through it a few years and maybe don't have the drive that some of the younger pups do, they might need something more gentle and not as physically active to stimulate them. What I do encourage everyone to do is, if you don't really know what it is that stimulates your dog or excites them, which most people in the room probably do, that you speak with a behaviorist and get them to help you. They're going to look at your dog's age, breed, personality, obviously their physical characteristics and their character, right? Their genetics play a role in what is going to work best for them.
Great, thank you. So, can you share some easy or everyday enrichment activities that dog parents can try at home? Please do try this at home. That don't require like any fancy gadgets, even if you may have those.
Yeah, I mean, there's two games that I really like. I used to play this game called Hide and Go Seek. It does require at least a, a moderate level of obedience. Your dog needs to know how to stay, but just try this. Just try putting them on a stay in one room, going to another room, and calling them, but hiding, obviously. You don't just want to make it easy for them. You can increase the level of difficulty over time because you'll find that a dog will kind of move around, use their nose in order to find you, because that's how they're going to do it. They're going to smell you out, and that's what you want, right? The other game I like to play is, you've heard it around now. I think most people have heard this term. It's called a sniffari. It's where you put treats around your apartment, and you just let the dog, let the dog sniff them out and find them. Of course, don't put them anywhere where you think your dog is going to damage any furniture. That could be counterproductive.
Great. Well, thanks. And also, if anyone wants to talk later about what was trending at Super Zoo, there are some great electronic gadgets and things like play mats or lick mats. There was also an electronic chasing toy where the dog could chase what looked like a fishing fly around. There was also language buttons. I don't know if anyone's seen that, where there was one in particular that I think had been on Shark Tank, that so there are some more electronic things emerging, but there are some things that you can just do at home. Like sometimes they recommend, my dog has this one toy he's obsessed with, wrap it up, and it all becomes a whole new toy for him once he digs through it and finds it all over again. So anyhow.
Yeah, that's true. And I just want to add to that point, like a lot of people think that we need to tire out our dogs by taking them for a 3-mile run. And that's not necessarily the case. If you find a good enrichment activity for your dog, they can tire themselves out by just lying on the floor next to you, participating in that activity for 30 minutes to an hour. And you will get them just as tired as if you took a 3-mile run with them.
Great. So Dan, at Pups, we go for human quality daycare curriculum. That's a big part of the Pups experience. So how does mental enrichment play out in that curriculum, Dan, that you've experience that you've developed at Pups? Can you share some insider insights?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's important, right? Because daycare has evolved. It used to be just, okay, let's get the dogs together, let's have them socialize and exercise. Again, that's a foundational need, and that is part of any good daycare program. But a well-rounded program includes enrichment activities. So moments of social interaction are important, of course, but opportunities for the dogs to use their senses, like sniffing, physical activities like running or agility can be certainly beneficial for some dogs. And the downtime as well. Like you need to make sure that they're not overstimulated. Things such as bubble time, right? Watch a dog watching a bubble float through the air. You can do that at home. Not that expensive to buy, a bottle of bubbles. TV time, reading time. These are things that we do to make things to make a program a little differentiated for our pups. We want to make sure that they don't go home completely unstimulated, because yes, they're going to be tired from the physical activity, but the mental stimulation is really where they're going to get the greatest benefit now from daycare, I believe.
Awesome. So we've talked about stimulating your dog and making sure they have this fulfilling experience, but how much is too much? I think we have to look at, with all the enrichment options that are available, I challenge you to Google mental enrichment for dogs. How can pet parents, Dan, ensure that you're not overwhelming your dogs and giving them too much? How much is too much enrichment versus downtime?
Yeah, this is a great question again, because every dog is different, right? I like to point out a couple dogs that one I know personally. It's my dog. He's super high drive and socially dominant. He needs a lot of enrichment activities throughout the day in order to get him to a point where he feels satisfied. And then, you know, by show of hands, who remembers the movie Funny Farm with Chevy Chase? And I remember that movie. Okay. I love that movie for the dogs. Chevy goes out and one of the first things he does is he's out in the farm in New Hampshire, and one of the first things he does is he goes and gets a Gordon Setter, super high drive dog. He lets the dog off the leash on the farm, and the dog is gone. You see the dog come back about 3 or 4 scenes later. He's still running after the ducks on the farm, and Chevy can't get him. That type of dog, obviously, kind of like my dog, needs a lot of, you know, mental stimulation and, of course, physical stimulation. Chevy ends up getting another dog, a lab, a yellow lab, and he calls him Golden Dog. Or sorry, he calls him Yellow Pup, not Yellow Dog. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, it's been a long time since I saw this movie. And Yellow Dog is so lazy that he ends up sleeping on the mantle of the fireplace, and his tail catches fire, and he doesn't even realize that his tail's on fire. Now, that type of dog obviously doesn't require as much stimulation as the Gordon Setter that Chevy got earlier in the movie. So every dog, my point here is that every dog is different. You've got to realize the drive of your dog, and what is going to stimulate your dog. Even Yellow Dog, it could have been stimulated in some way, but essentially ended up just lying lazily at the mantle and catching his tail on fire, unfortunately. But I would say that, you know, overall, if you can figure out a schedule that includes mental engagement and downtime, you know, you're gonna win. You should always start small. Don't try to go too big and do too much with your dog, and then figure out how they respond. And then as you see what they respond to, right, you're going to obviously do more of what they're fully engaged in and do less of what they're not. Pretty simple here.
Great, and that's a terrific point, Dan, because after Dan and I went to Super Zoo and we saw these panels on mental enrichment and all the products that were winning awards for it, I thought, I am not a great pet parent. I have not been giving my dogs, I thought I was, but the fulfilling life. And I became really overwhelmed because the advice that the experts at Super said, where do you start, right? Where do you start? And they said, start by being a behavioralist. Observe your dog's behavior. Then I really freaked out because this is my idea of a behavioralist. And I am not a master behavioral trainer. I thought, how can I do that? And they said, it's just about sit with your dog at night for 15 minutes and observe them. And I have 2 dogs. And I did that after I got back from Super Zoo. I have one Cavalier King Charles Spaniel who loves everybody and is bouncy and effervescent all the time. And then I have a Tibetan Spaniel who is more like a cat and will turn on you if you pet him too much. So I sat with both of them, and the experiences were very, I took their advice. I just let them come to me, and I touched and gave them different things to play with. And I thought I knew my dogs well. One I've had 14 years, and I learned something that night. So it's just about, you don't have to be a behavioralist like Dan, though. You know, that's pretty impressive. You just have to get to know your dog and connect with your dog. I think that's a really important part that anyone can start from. So,
Well,
so
spoken
now,
like an empowered pet parent, Lisa, and any great behaviorist is really going to help you understand your dog's behavior. They're not going to try to just solve the problem in a few lessons. What they're going to try to do is turn you into a better pet parent. You know, overall, mental enrichment is going to help you with a lot of things that you're dealing with at home. You know, excessive barking, chewing, anxiety. You know, there's studies that have been done that, you know, that show that dogs that receive regular mental stimulation are less likely to develop destructive behaviors. So this is important for all of us as, you know, crossbreeding becomes more popular, and of course, adopting dogs is now more popular than it ever has been in the past. You're likely to get dogs with some level of anxiety and or mental challenges, and so these activities, these enrichment activities, are going to be essential for you to create a balanced life with your pup.
thank you so much, Dan. And now, what's on your mind on mental enrichment? Yes.
How is it when you're a parent? Like I have 4 dogs at home, 3 of my own.
Bless you.
Is it
And
bad?
Lisa, you're gonna have to repeat the question. Unless there's a mic in the audience, I can't hear the question.
Great.
What or can you recommend when you have a pack of dogs to do those types of exercises? Best separate the dogs one by one and give them individual enrichment, or you try to do it as a pack?
So you're gonna have to repeat the question. I cannot hear the question, Lisa.
Again, if there's a pack of like our audience member has 4 dogs, a pack. So how would you handle mental enrichment? Would you do one at a time, or would you do some group activities? How would you go about the logistics of that situation?
Well, I commend you for having 4 dogs. That's awesome. When's number 5 coming around? Because if you have 4, you've already once you've broken 3, I think, then you can go all the way. You can go up 10, 15, 20. Yeah, I think you're gonna you obviously have made a big commitment, with all those dogs, and I applaud you for it. I do think again, you have to separate the dogs to understand their unique needs. If you're not going to do that, you're probably doing them a disservice. There's great pack play activities, right? Especially if all of your dogs have some type of retrieving sense or chasing sense, which chasing is an instinct. Certainly, throwing a ball is a great physical activity, but also a mental enrichment activity for dogs that do retrieve. But I would say that depending on it goes back to the same answers before. Depending on their age, breed, you're gonna have a different enrichment activity for each one of those guys.
Thank you.
Great. Anyone else? What's on your minds about mental enrichment? Yes.
You were saying to sit with them 15 minutes to watch them. What are you looking? What are those tales to help you understand them?
So when I did this, I sat down just in a very quiet place. I put my other dog. I only have 2, so as I was here for. I put in the other room, and she loves looking at me. This one, so I just looked at her, and she started cocking her head at me. And then she took her paw and started pawing at me because the thing is, my dog is used to me being an active parent and doing stuff to her. So she got a little confused, but in a good way. She started pawing at me. And then she started indicating to me that she wanted her head scratched. And so I just kind of followed her lead. And this is exactly what they talked about, the expert group. I followed her lead. She wanted her head scratched. And then when she realized oh, my mom's interacting with me, then she went over and she got her favorite toy and she put it down in front of me. And when I tried to grab it, she grabbed it away from me. And then we started playing a game of throwing it. And then I was chasing her. And it was just a nice interaction. Instead of, usually it's me like, let's go for a walk. Oh, let's go play ball. Or, time for dinner. It was just really, I think she felt she felt very connected in being able to lead whatever we were doing that day. Did that answer your question?
And by the way, that highlights another area of mental enrichment that is so important, right? It's the emotional well-being. It's the connection that the dogs feel with you. They are pack animals, and again, going back to the person who had 4 dogs that has a pack, but believe it or not, they view you, they're human as a pack, as a part of their pack too. So, Lisa's game with one of her dogs is, super stimulating for the dog, but also it creates an incredible bond, and a strengthened bond, leads to emotional, well-being, which leads to a longer life.
And it's also very important too. Now, so that same activity with my Tibetan Spaniel, who is a little bit edgy, annoyed him. But seriously, to the point where he was growling at me. He's like, stop staring at me. Like, do something already. I'm like, this is not my job to play with you.
Yeah.
I have to know their personality, like what, even just one of my dogs, if you touch her tail, she loves it and she feels loved and connected. The other one will start snapping, like, hey, don't touch my beautiful poop of a tail. So you really have to know your dog. And I really thought that that was a huge takeaway is I thought I knew my dogs, but um, there's another level that's mental enrichment, why it's trending so much now. And I think then there's also that, Dan, the mind-body connection for humans. The humanization of pets is a huge trend right now. And so I think we should also think about, we think a lot about the mind-body connection I do for my human child. I'm starting to think about it now more for my pets as well.
Absolutely. Listen, there's a lot of ways to go through mental enrichment activities. You could do it at home. And they're obviously the most cost effective. But if you're looking for a great mental enrichment activity outside of the home, join a scent work class. You know, you're gonna find that your dog is gonna love that class, and all dogs have that ability, believe it or not. Even your little spaniels, Lisa, have that ability.
I know Pups offers a ton of different classes, some for dogs, like your cattle dogs or whatever, agility classes. I'm gonna do one, I'm gonna do the dance with your dog class, only with my Cavalier, my Tibetan would probably bring the house down over that one. But they're all different kinds of classes now that you know, I know available at Pups, Dan, you might want to highlight some others, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, I love, you know, we came up with this dancing with your dog class. It sounds kind of obviously weird. We've all seen it probably on some of the talent shows. But it's actually really stimulating for the dog and incredibly engaging. And it's a lot of fun too. And ultimately, that's what we're trying to achieve is do things that are engaging, fun, and help our dogs, you know, with their cognitive abilities, right? Like a dog has to think hard in a dancing class, believe it or not. There are steps that they need to take, and of course, when you're physically challenging them as well, you can't, you know, not help them because you're connecting that body and mind together and creating that balance. I think there's no better way to help you achieve a stronger bond with your dog and to lengthen the life of your dog than to do something interactive like you know, a dance class or a scent work class, or like Lisa was describing, some of the simple activities at home.
Yes,
So apart from the points that you already covered, are there any thoughts on enrichment activities or just mental enrichment in general for an aging dog, like a 15-year-old dog?
Dan's a perfect person to ask that. Dan, did you hear the question?
Yeah,
Any-
I heard the question. What do you do for an aging
Yes,
dog?
any thoughts on activities for an aging dog?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it comes down to just like depending on your dog's physical limitations now, but just a massage is sometimes good enough, right? You're stimulating the muscles, and believe it or not, that touch, you know, that engagement through touch is physically, not only physically stimulating for them, but mentally stimulating for them. So I think oftentimes what we do is we see the tired old dog, and we think he's great just in the corner, and we just want to leave him alone because he just wants to be on his own. And you got to get down on the floor with them and interact with them. And he might not be able to do much, but a massage is a great way to really bond with your dog. And believe it or not, it is mentally stimulating. Every time you put your hands on your dog, guys and gals in the audience, you are mentally stimulating along with physically stimulating them.
Yes,
Something that I've experienced in our rescue is even the way you feed, a dog.
thank you.
So what I experienced is even the way you feed the dog is very stimulating. And we feed all of our dogs on my
And when
Snare that finger, follow the clip. Quick ways. Right.
so they have to really think of how we're going to eat. It's super, super, rather than just diving into a bowl and, you know, yeah. Slow feeders and lick mats they're the same. Slow feeders are the same as Super Zoo. Yeah. Same, slow feeder is the same as feeding like out of the bowl. So like, in you're still like big cup. You're still like, who wants to eat that way? I mean, there's nothing to think about. Afghan dogs.
No, and I'm sorry, I didn't hear the comments or the questions at all. I missed everything. I heard slow feeding and I heard rescue organization. That's pretty much all I heard, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the comment was more around the best ways, like she was mentioning how the optimal way to feed the dog so it's more natural. It's not diving your head into a bowl and gobbling all up. Like what's more natural or even mentally stimulating way for dogs so that they're getting the comment. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a dog that's a voracious eater, then sometimes these a lick mat or a feeding bowl that has I don't remember what you call them, the little nubs on the top that kind of prevent the dog from just diving in and engulfing the food. Those have proven really great. I wouldn't say that necessarily mental enrichment there. It's more or less, you need to slow down for health reasons. Of course, it's going to make the dog think. Of course, yeah, like you're going to have to work your way around the bowl as opposed to just diving in and inhaling the food. So there's some mental enrichment there, but more or less, I think that type of feeder could probably just be used when dogs are eating too fast.
Great. So thank you, Dan, so much for being here. Do you have any final thoughts? Want to leave any final wisdom from Doggy Dan on mental enrichment that we all can't live without?
Only that, everything that we're talking about today, guys, basically has been studied pretty extensively around the world. And we're diving even more into it nowadays. Overall, enrichment activities are gonna boost your dog's cognitive abilities. And that's what's gonna lead to a longer, healthier life, right? If you notice in humans, the humans that retire early on the beach and do nothing for the rest of their lives ended up probably passing away. Those are the stories you hear, versus the stories of longevity. The centenarians that we read about always have something to do late into their lives, even up until the day they pass away. So if we want long lives for our dogs, we need to engage with them and figure out ways that are going to stimulate them to enhance their cognitive abilities. Because I guess what you could say is even an old dog can learn new tricks in a way. So think of ways, even for the gentleman who's got a 15-year-old dog who might be lying around the house, like think of if you want to extend his life for another few years, we've got to think of ways that are going to engage him to get him mentally stimulated, not just physically stimulated.
I am also a certified instructor for PETAC, which is the start stage for feline, canine feline companion for stage. Today, slides with that.
The middle one.
Today I have to combine 8 hours worth of material into 30 minutes. So bear with me. I've actually toned it down a bit. And what I'm going to tell you today is how to avoid an emergency instead of how to fix an emergency. So if you guys need to actually fix an emergency, please come and take one of our courses. There's pet tech instructors all over the country. And if you can't find one, contact me and we can do it online. But it's a really cool course. It's divided into 2 segments, a CPR and first aid. So pretty much learn what we need to do. In my experience, in the past 25 years that I've been really professionally working with animals, I've experienced everything but a snake bite. So I don't know. I don't expect you guys to do that, but just I'm going to share no stories today except for one because I don't have time. So in my experience, pet care is for a lifetime. That is my friend's Boston puppy and her senior dog. She is fully committed, and it's how everyone should be. If you take a dog in, no matter what age, you should always know it and be prepared for anything that comes your way. You need to know your pet. That is the number one way to avoid an emergency. So, what do you need to know in a nutshell? Start a journal, and if you haven't already, do it today. And you want to have everything you need to know in case there's an emergency. If your dog's having their first seizure, that's an emergency. You don't know why it's happened, you need to get to the vet, and you want to be able to give the vet as much information as you know in order to best help your vet, your pet. So start a journal. And in this talk, I'm going to tell you what's going to go in your journal, along with a few other things. And we're going to do a snout tail assessment. Snout tail assessment is literally just what it says. You're going to start with the dog's nose and go all the way to their tail. And you're going to write down everything you find. Now there's way. That's what I'm going to point out what's going to go in your journal. These are things that's going to help you bond better with your pet, understand when things pop up. So for instance, your dog doesn't have a bump on their leg on their first assessment, but then all of a sudden there's a bump. When did the bump happen? Has the bump gotten bigger? Is the bump bleeding? So that any number of things can be the difference between cancer and just a benign like bump. But you need to know. And you need to be able to tell your vet, well, it started a week ago and now it's 3 times the size. That's a little scary. So that's going to go in your journal. And it's all going to be how to prepare for the inevitable emergency. Because the more you know, the more you can notice when things are not. So here we go. That's not the cells that I just kind of went over it. But I can figure out how to do this thing. So Jack's going to assist me. He is just here. You want to hold my mic? Yes. You don't have to. I just need him. So Jack is going to help assist me. So when you're starting, you're going to start with Snout. And this goes to pets too. Turtles, I mean, you can do any of your pets. I have everything in every pet on this house. I've resuscitated a turtle, so if you need to know how to do that. So Snout. Make sure the snout is not too wet, not too dry. It has to be black, brown, whatever their actual normal color is. And that's one of the things that goes in your turtle. My dog's nose is really brown. Today it's black. Why is that happening? You want to make sure it's not too far cracked. There's no discharge. I see a lot of bulldogs that get ridges. You want to keep that in there because you can also use coconut oil, there's other things, goat's butter we get to fix that kind of stuff. That is not normal, so that is something you want to fix. So then we go, sorry, I'm rushing. It's not normally this quick. You want to check the gums. Gums are super important and they can tell you a lot. So when you're looking at gums, you want to be able to, now let me start by saying this. If you have a dog that doesn't want you looking in their mouth, you got to start backwards to skip them and so that they're not going to then attack like that when they try to look at their gums. So these are all little things you're going to want to learn along the way. But the average dog, if you know well, is going to look at their gums. So you're going to pick the gum up, just like they're doing there. And you want to check for 2 things. The color. Most dogs either have bubblegum pink gums or black gums. Make sure the teeth are white, they're not cracked, looking for gingivitis, seedy things, bleeding, anything like that. And that there's no bad odor. Because bad odor can indicate a gut problem or a tooth problem. So that's something I want to keep an eye on. The next thing you want to make sure, this is what's going to go in your journal as well, is the capillary refiltering. And this can tell you a lot about how healthy your dog is. It can tell you if your dog's in shock. It can tell you if your dog is going into it's hot. It's a really useful tool. It's one of the first things you need to know if a dog just come in and your dog is down. Oh my God, let me check their gums. So how you do that is you lift the upper lid. You're going to press firmly against the, like kind of up over the tooth. And you're going to see it's going to blanch out. Take your hand off, and it should refill within 2 seconds. Anything more, like this. So Can't do any problems because I don't have time. So it's gonna help determine the underlying health of your pet based on the color as well. So pink or black, white and pale is anemic or shock. Yellow is jaundice, liver problems, and blue-gray is hypoxic and shock. Right before I came here, I had a dog, and it's pretty wild, the difference, the color that happens, it's just color drain right out of the gums. So that's super helpful, because if you're calling your vet ahead of time, saying I'm coming in, my dog is sick, their gums are blue, they can better prepare for how to react to the emergency. Then you want to go to the box. I just had a great experience with this. You're going to want to compare things, they make sure they track. They look the same, their pupils are moving the right way, not one is not larger than the other. There's clear no discharge, and if you get a lot of the runny stuff, that's often demand related. So that is actually something you guys can learn more about in all the talks that are going on with gut health. This is my dog. This is the Barbie dog. These pictures were taken the same exact day. What's the difference? This little cyborg guy. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, what is going on here? We've been able to tell if the light hadn't hit it right. But as it turns out, she has an emergency, ended up being an emergency. That's not that well. This would have been an emergency had I not caught it that day. What she has is a luxating lens, and that means the lens is broken away and it's floating around her eye. And I just happened to notice it because of the way she was sitting there. So I got her to my vet, they rushed me to the emergency vet. She's having surgery next week to fix this. But this is what I mean. If I knew my dog, so I was able to say, there's an emergency here, or get her to the vet so the vet was able to tell me this is an emergency. Unfortunately, she may develop glaucoma as she gets older, but we caught it early enough that she's not going to lose her eye. So these are the little things that I want you guys to realize. And this is literally, she's just sitting on the couch looking at me, and I snapped that photo, and it's like, that doesn't look right. So next, we're going down the face. So we want to start looking for lumps, bumps, pains, response, fluid buildup. We want to under the jaw, check kind of head and down, over down the neck, this is all the head area. And again, write anything you find in your journal. And if you find along the way that your dog is sensitive, that's another thing you want to look for. So if you're touching your dog and all of a sudden there's a flinch, that could mean there's pain. It could be abscess forming in your mouth. It could be any number of things that are going on. Just be aware of it so you can mention it if you need to. And then you're gonna do the same thing for the ears. Oh, ears, poor Barbie, I could go on about that as well. She has chronic ear infections, so she's I'm always dealing with ears. But you want to check the ears, you want to look for smell, you want to look for any discharge, anything abnormal, lumps, bumps. My other dog unfortunately had an oral hematoma, so my ear swells up, but I wouldn't have noticed if I wasn't constantly checking her ears. The ear swells up, it's fat, have to be trained. So again, any abnormalities that you find out of that, let your vet know. Now they go down the front side, back, check for abrasions, bumps, tenderness, and pain. So generally, if you're working with your dog, you're just gonna kind of want to run your hands down. At that point, you're going to be able to assess weight. So a dog's going to be a good weight for a dog to feel the ribs, and there's a nice indent, but you can't see anything beyond that. Could vary based on your dog. Pups are round, so they're not necessarily going to have that nice waist all the time. But so, your dog. So, and we're going to continue on. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not going to. So then we're going to go to the rib cage. This is where we're going to next thing into it. So when you're doing the breathing rate, you want to just run your hands along the spine. And you're going to be looking for things. Tumors will develop into the ribs. I had a dog that had one of the tumors that developed in there and mast cell tumors. And I was able to find them early, so we were able to treat it, which is great. You should be able to easily feel ribs, and you're going to look for breathing which is smooth and rhythmic. So when you're doing this state, so you know the difference between your dog going crazy and breathing pattern and a calm normal state. So those session rates, so you know what a calm normal state is. You're going to want to put your hand on the dog's chest. Sorry. See the panting and feel the movement, so you know what the difference is. The bigger the pet, the smaller the number. So if you have a Great Dane, you just kind of be breathing, nice and slow. If you have a Chihuahua, it's a lot faster. So know your rates. You're going to count the rises and falls for 30 seconds and then double that number. And that's going to give you your breaths per minute. So for big dogs, it's 10 to 30 breaths per minute. And for cats and smaller dogs, 20 to 30 breaths. Write that in the book. Nails, I'm a big nails because they do make a huge difference. But you want to make sure that nails are not cracked, too long, split. Nail beds. It's not going to get infected. Foxtails get in there and much the toes. I've seen some nasty things in there. I've had individual cysts go on, foxtails, bee stings, any number of things like that. Attempts like to find a way to furry dogs' paws. Because here's one thing the bottles keep all the fur out between the pads. And for the toenails, the dog's toenails should not touch the ground. So when they're standing normal, they should not be hitting the ground. If they are, you gotta start cutting your dog's toenails. And there's a lot of groomers in our room, so ask them if you guys need help with that. So you want to make sure all those things, because that will eventually affect their shoulder joints. It can affect their gait, it can cause arthritis, all kinds of other things that we don't know. Now we're gonna go do the same thing in the back legs, but here we're gonna check for your dog's pulse. Anybody know where a pulse is in a dog? Again, you have to know your dog, because some of these dogs aren't gonna be too happy about it. But the best place to find a pulse on your dog is right up in that private area. It's kind of right in between, it's right where the leg meets the belly. And you're going to use 2 fingers, these 2 fingers actually, no, these 2. And you're going to want to stick them kind of right in the crease and just feel that little piece. It's there, trust me, because they're alive. And so you're going to be looking for again, it's 60 to 100. Medium 8 to 120, small dog is 90 to 140, and cats are going to have their little fast. Figure out it's normal, do that in a resting setting, so that way you can say, dog's heart is racing, but he's unconscious. So you know, allergies, things like that, and allergy attack speed, your heart rate up. So you check there, so what you're going to do is use your 2 middle fingers, you're going to count the beats for 6 seconds and add a 0 for beats per second. And you're going to count 15 seconds and multiply by 4 to count the beats per minute. Does that make sense? You're gonna have to actually apply it. And then write that in your book. You need to know the risk. Abdomen, you're gonna use just palm of your hand over the abdomen. You're gonna be looking for tension. Again, flinching, feeling lumps and bumps. A lot of labs when as they're aging start to get lumpy and they start to get lumps in their lower regions. So you want to keep that. And check the mammary glands. Barbie, my poor mess, has it was a breeding mom that was left behind. She had very large mammary glands. They're all safe, but I check them regularly, probably like once a week at least, because those tumors can pop up quickly, and mammary tumors are no joke. And then check for skin code for texture, color, shedding, and quality. Again, the skin is the largest organ in our body. So when that's mixed up, you know you have internal problems going on. So pay attention to skin, because that can be an indicator that you have bigger problems. So anything, if the coat is lackluster, if it's greasy, if it's falling out. My other dog currently recently bacterial infection. Skin started, she had hives, and then all of a sudden her skin started falling out. So we had to treat that. You want to look for success for performance range, pain, range of movement when it comes to anything. If you touch my dog's skin right now, skin ripples. Ooh, don't touch. So little things like that. If you know your dog, you know that's not normal. That can also be a sign of pain. If you're touching your leg and skin ripples or flesh, that could be a sign of pain anywhere where you're touching. It's always good to have a digital thermometer, and you want to use the when you're assessing the temperature, you want to twist slightly when you go in, so it doesn't hurt. And that's your average temperature for a dog is 100.4 to 102.5 Fahrenheit. Anything higher than that, obviously fever. You want to plan accordingly. But then again, this varies, so you want to make sure you know what your dog's average is. Some dogs just run hot. So what is an emergency? There's a ton. Like I said, I've seen all of these except for a snake bite, so I guess I have to move into a place where snakes live. But I've seen both. I've seen impaled object. I've had dogs choke. I've seen hypoparathyroidism. I have a dog with seizures. I've seen shock, spider bites, gross. There's so many things when you're prepared to get paranoid. So my next thing is muzzling. Muzzling is so important. I can't press why. My next lecture in your head for a second. But I just wanted to really impress upon you guys. It's so important to be careful. Dogs that are pain, whether they're yours or any no matter how well you know them, they will end like you. So when you're muzzling, you never want to muzzle if they're vomiting, seizing, or having breathing problems, obviously. For those of you guys that have rocky swallow dogs, it's a little hard to muzzle, so I suggest you have a soft muzzle in your kit. Just kind of put on. Muzzling might show you it's a little harder when you shorter muzzles. Never leave them unattended because you never know when they're going to start vomiting, have breathing problems, things like that. And you never want to put a finger in the mouth of a conscious pet. Muzzling duties. If your pet's in pain, you're going to use it. If they're alert about the button because they might be stressed out and they don't care if they don't want you to touch them. Muzzling works best with your natural instincts. This area right here is kind of common influence. That's why they make muzzles, things like that. They go right across the bridge. There's like a sensor there, sort of in the dog. And then also muzzle treat. I can't press this enough. Because if you're in an emergency, your dog never has their face, you gotta put a muzzle on their face, like, hey, what is this? So in the end, I would give you a little links to guys can learn to muzzle train. Muzzles for your pets, get your muzzles for your kids, and prepare them for this inevitable, hopefully not enough thing where you're gonna have to say, like, you want to be able to have it, do. This is why. This happened in 15 seconds. This was my own dogs. They would never have hurt me in a million years. This was all me. They were fine. But that's how quickly it happened. I was in the hospital for just a day, but I was on IV antibiotics for 6 weeks. And I almost lost my hands. So please be careful. If you get hurt, you can't do anything. Because I had to go to the hospital. My dog's family go to the not to grow it out, but that's why it's pushed. That can happen. So when you're doing restraining and muzzling, you want to always be cautious. You want to use the least amount of force that's necessary. So for me, your dog's already scared. And then you want to be calm. If you're going to be lifting a leg, you don't want to do this. They can't swing around and bite you. If they're lying down, you want to kind of like this. Same reason. When you're muzzling, these are fine. You can use any back row straps, belt, strap. I don't know. What am I going to do? The pet tech actually sells these tubes. They're a pretty good investment. But all you're going to do. Sound like the time.
You've got about 7 minutes.
So you're going to loop it, tie it in front, go underneath, come up around, tie it back. And then one of these goes up and under. And tie it off just like that. So all this is doing is just keep it up from hanging out there. Godzilla bite you. The best part about something like this is if you pull right, his ears on the normal log, it just pull right off. So in case you have an emergency, if you have to get it off, it just rips right off. So this will protect you from a bite. Wouldn't protect me because I wasn't expecting that, but when you're going into an emergency situation, you definitely want to be able to protect yourself first. Cats are a whole other story. It's called some cats. The 10-pound cat is that 50-pound dog. This slide did say something else, but I didn't want to swear. So. Range definitely with cats, if you towel, sweater, or they sell bags that you can actually drop the cat into. So they sell this Velcro where you can wrap a cat in it and then on Velcro part and stick a leg out. It's really cool. So yeah, so any of those products, if you have a feisty cat, these cats will mess up your world. These are my 2 projects. This is Ty used to have a stand for that's in the ear that had, well, since I have a few minutes.
You do have
so we had a reaction. So she had the surgery on her ear, and she suddenly her ear started blowing up again, and like everything sticking out all over. She had a systemic reaction to stitches, which is incredibly rare apparently, but that's what she had. So she was covered in eyes, head and tail. I felt really bad. It's just a chronic ear infection. She had keloid surgery, and she's had multiple litters. She's been overdone and reclosed multiple times to take puppies out. So she's had milk experiments made to kind of protect what's left. She has anal preventing problems. She has all kinds of things. So these guys keep me busy. They're my current. But to know more, if you want to contact me, 'cause I know I rushed through things, please reach out to me. I'm at followmyleadbb@gmail.com. If you want to find an in-person class, which I highly recommend, Tech does, again, they're for people programs in 4 hours apiece. CPR is in 4 hours, and then the other thing is a piece. First aid ed is 4 hours. And there are local people that do it, but if you can't find somebody local who want to work, me, I Connecticut here. Go to Tech and see if you can find a class. If not, contact me. My online courses are going to be on my website. Just follow my lead next.com. Maybe having and then this time was trained the muzzle up project. We'll do step by step on how to muzzle train. You don't want to rush it because a good muzzle train should go on where and not act like there's anything else. And then you're safe and just roll out to business. And finally, since I have time, what's in my emergency kit? Now, everyone's emergency kit is going to be a little bit different because of where you live. Again, I don't need snake bites dogs. I don't live in a state where there's snakes. They don't bite. So then, what is like a basic emergency kit? Feel free to take a gander. I also like to have CBD in my emergency kit for pain and anxiety. I love these top Paris products, and these two are fantastic. Seasonality is a go-to. I actually have information more afraid about what those are. They're homeopathic remedies that you take as well as your animals. So it's something you can carry. If there's an emergency for yourself or your animals, throw it on in there. But you protective pipes, leashes, collars. Remember what else I wrote? Emergency blankets. If you're going to be in the matrix, in the middle of shop, but if you're in the middle of 100-degree weather, you're going to want to poop. You're going to want to have a lamp because it helps them cool dogs cool from the bottom of the bottoms for belts fastest. That's nitrile gloves. I'm allergic to latex, so I'm getting a pair of nitrile or latex gloves. I'm going to the hospital along with my dog. So make sure you have appropriate gloves like that. And gloves, your standard stuff. It's all good to have research photos and medical records are important stuff. Stay your hiking and your dog will know the picture. You need that so they can find them. There's so many things. I could go on and on. I had a list like 3 times the length of this, but these were kind of like the emergency ones. Trees was really important. And I also wanted to point out that one of our sponsors, House Pet Club, has these great things. They're little pet first aid things. So guys, stop by and get one of those. There's a piece there. Take out ticks. I love pulling ticks though. And sounding good. So it's stuff that stops bleeding. So if they split a nail, the nail's bleeding, or if you're certain specific powder in there, it'll stop the bleeding right away, or it's just and that's about it.
And we're way ahead of schedule, so
That is the action program. So if you guys want to go ahead,
if anyone has any questions for Beth, go ahead and ask. Or you can ask now. Yeah, go ahead and ask now.
Where do you put your emergency kit? I mean, like, you have one in the car, what? Or
have regular actually. I have I use always my car, one in my house. I have one small one in my bag that I carry with me usually. So I always have something. And again, it's because I have it's not what my dogs. One of my dogs has eyes, so I usually carry in that bag for her. I generally always have those seasonalities and stuff like that, just in case emergencies.
how big of a bag are you gonna help me?
Well, because I have, and I know that's like it's like a doctor's bag. It's ridiculous how much stuff I have in it. Then I have like 2 average, like smaller, like makeup stuff. And those are just the essentials, like the having borax and saline solution to wash out eyes or clean cuts. I usually always keep that bandages around, the one that roll around when they stick. A lot of stuff, but yeah, that'll give you your basics. Any other questions?
We'll just keep on with the program.
Yeah, we're off around the once.